Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Tuesday, June 21st, 2022 Board of Selectmen's meeting. I'll be pitch hitting for Leah tonight. Seth will be pitch hitting for Dennis. He's going to zoom in for a vote later on. But we're going to get everything done tonight, and we'll start with the pledge. Mr. Buckley, would you start us with the pledge tonight?
I will. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have Mr. Muldoon here for citizens input. Welcome.
I'm not going to be able to read it.
Okay.
Good evening. Arthur Muldoon, 112 Cocasset Street, Unit 7. What I gave the chairwoman was a revised on the charts that shows that the two directors now are under the arm of the town manager. And going through it, it's only a partial thing, and I was wondering where the vice chairman, the assistant town manager is on the master organizational chart. Has that been changed?
So is it okay if we answer just quickly?
Sure.
What I think, Mr. Muldoon, I don't even know if we can see this up close or not, but this was, I think it was in our town meeting paperwork.
Yes, right.
So I think what happened was, nope, Mike is still our assistant town manager, he's gone nowhere. I think this was really about the reorganizing.
Right.
All these other people that are under the now Human Services and then the Land Use Economic Development were under Bill and answering to Bill on a weekly basis with department head meetings. So Bill restructured it. So now he'll meet with Paige Duncan and Mark Craig.
All right.
And so I think this was really just about them.
Right,
Yep, our assistant town manager is still here.
Yes,
I
right.
didn't know if he, where he was on the master.
That has not changed.
He's still on the master.
Still on the master.
That's all. That's it. The other thing I want to know is, is the search committee for the new town manager, has that been organized yet?
Not as of yet.
No,
Not as of yet, no.
not as yet.
Look, we're just starting the process of doing the RFP for the consulting company, and so that'll fall in line.
Who will fall in line to run that search committee?
Well, it'll still be under the guise of the town, of the selectman's office. The Board of Selectmen will run it. They'll be the chief board in charge of it. You know, the
Has one
town
of
manager
them-
obviously cannot be part of that process.
Has one of them been assigned for that yet?
Not yet, because what happens, Arthur, typically is that the consultant will be hired by the board, and the board will then work with the consultant to define the process. Okay?
What are the qualifications to get on the search committee?
We haven't defined those as of yet, Arthur. I think it's a case of, it'll be up to the board to determine that later on, but it has not been defined as of yet.
How much time is the public going to have before the search committee is approved? And is that who's in charge of the search committee right now?
It would be the Board of Selectmen,
Period.
period.
All right.
Yeah, we haven't started that process yet. I don't want to speak for our board, but nobody on the board right now has been on the board. Everyone came on after Bill was hired, so none of us
Right.
have the experience of hiring a town manager. And so the consulting company that we hire are going to help us walk through those steps. So I wish we could answer better, but, you
All right.
know,
That's all right.
yeah,
I know
that's where we are right now.
I know you people got a lot of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Art.
much. Always a pleasure.
Let me have the thing back.
Here you go, darling. Here you go. You're welcome. Is there anybody else with citizens input? Come on up. Can you just give us your name and address? Thanks.
Hi, my name is Kerry Rosato, 106 Summer Street. I am the Vice Chair of the Foxborough Founders Day Planning Committee. And on behalf of the committee and the community, I want to thank the Selectmen for their involvement and support of Founders Day, which was a great success this year. And I don't think the people of Foxborough and the community really realize that our committee is only a small portion of Founders Day, and it's this committee, their support, and all the offices in town, the police department, the fire department, the rec department, the DPW, the Board of Health, the town administrator processing all the food permits and the indem forms. I don't think the people realize that without the support of the selectmen and all the offices in town, Foxborough Founders Day would not have been such a success as it was, and we look forward to your support next year again.
Great.
Great. We're going to talk about that later during Selectmen's update.
Absolutely.
But thank you so much.
That was well done.
Yeah.
Very well done.
Okay. All right. Anybody else with citizens input, or do we have anybody virtual, Christina? Nope. Nobody? Okay. We'll go to our next item, which is we're going to open up the public hearing for an earth removal permit.
In conformity with the requirements of Section 21 of Chapter 40 of the Massachusetts General Law and Chapter 115 of the Town Bylaws, you are hereby notified that a public hearing will be held by the Board of Selectmen on Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, beginning at 7:05 p.m. in the Gala Meeting Room, 40 South Street, to review the application submitted by Bay Colony Group Incorporated on behalf of Nickco Builders for an earth removal permit to be exercised at 32 Cedar Street, map 180, parcel 040, proposing to remove 7,082 cubic yards of material in order to construct a 4-bedroom single-family home. All interested parties are welcome to attend.
Okay, so we have Bill Buckley from Bay Colony representing, so.
Good evening, Madam Chair,
We'll throw the floor to you.
ladies and gentlemen. For the record, my name is Bill Buckley from Bay Colony Group. I'm representing the applicant, Nickco Builders, and Nick Riccio is principal of that firm, is behind me, and he's also here this evening. So we're here before you, as you stated, is for an earth removal permit at a piece of property at 32 Cedar Street. And I've put up here, I know it's hard to see because of the washout, but this is where 32 Cedar Street is. It's right in this location here. This is Washburn Drive, which is about 300 feet to the east. And over here is Carlton Lane, which is maybe about 600 feet. And you can just see down here, this is South Street coming in, crossing 106, and then heading into Mansfield. And that's about a quarter of a mile away. So this piece of property is here on the south side. And so let me do a new share. So this is the plan we filed. What we would like to do is, I'm just going to talk you very quickly through the property. If you look over here on the left side, this is the existing condition. And I know it's hard to see again because of the washout, but if you were standing here on Cedar Street looking into the side, you'd go into the side maybe 20 feet, and then you'd hit like a 10-foot wall of dirt. It comes in and it goes straight up. And that's what this site is. It's approximately maybe 175 feet wide, 300 feet deep. And for most of that, it is at least 10 feet above the lots on either side of it. So it would be, nothing's impossible, because just give me enough money and I'll do whatever you want. But it would be impractical to build, come in there with a house. So what we'd like to do is take this lot and bring it down to the approximate grades of the houses or the lots on either side of us. So on the right side, as you're looking at this plan, and I'm going to show you over here, this is about a 14-foot, from the top here to this edge of the property line is a 14-foot drop. And then if you come over here, it's about a 10-foot elevation differential. So we'll be taking this area in the middle down about 10 feet in order to, as you're looking at the plan to the left, be generally the same grade as the house that's there. As, again, looking at the plan, and to the right, it's about 4 feet higher than the lot that's there. So we're trying to meet the grade of the existing properties on either side. And you can see the house, it's a bit your normal colonial home, it's be set back. The septic system will be in the front yard. Will be all of the gravel, we're not positive about where it's being removed, but we're pretty sure it'll be going to Attleboro. And the loam, of course, has to remain on the site, cannot leave Foxborough. We'll use it on site to replace the areas that are stripped, and any of it that is left over, if any, it will remain in town, we'll move it in town. Stumps will be, and boulders will be removed from the site. There will be no burial of stumps and boulders on the site. And one of the things that I know the board has always been concerned about is, the traffic, or not so much traffic, but buses. So we're about 1.5 miles from the Taylor School, which is off to the northeast, and then we're about 2 miles to the Taylor School, and then we're about 1.5 miles to I think it's called the Wood School in Plainville over there to the west. The good thing is we expect this to start construction fairly quickly, and there's no school. So that should not be an issue. However, if it does become an issue, if it does stretch to September, which I would be shocked if it does, then we would, limit the truck traffic to off-peak periods when buses would not be coming down there. And that concludes my presentation.
Great, thanks, Bill. I had a couple of questions, and I happened to talk to Christina earlier, and she answered them, but I think it's nice maybe for people at home, because this is the first time since I've been on the board that we had a earth removal, so I was kind of, geez, why does that come before the Board of Selectmen? So just to let people know, because it's a permit basically, right, and that it's, and you answered everything else. I was just like, I wonder where the earth is going to go to. And it looks like, the other question I had was if, in our information, I didn't see anything from conservation. That's always the big one, especially when, and Christina assured us, conservation, just so you guys know, has signed off on it. So there's no issues with conservation. And it looks like DPW most of the things you just said about traffic, the buses have, gone through everything with you guys. And I think for you, this is probably an often occurrence, so much I didn't know much about it, but everything I had, it seems to have been answered. How about you guys? Do you have any questions you want to ask Bill?
Yep. Bill, I'm interested in the history of the lot, who owned it, and how long it's been in this state it's been in, and that type of thing, if you could help.
I think this law was created in 72?
Late 60s, actually, 67, I think it was.
So late 60s, and it was created actually at the time by a variance. There was 2 or 3 lots at the time. It was created by a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, because this lot is short, a little bit of frontage, and the other lot was sold off. This lot just stayed, it just hung out, and it is still, vacant. On either side of it, there's homes on either side, and Nick has gone to the building commissioner to make sure that the variance is still in effect, because variances now, if you apply for a variance, it's only good for a year. But back then, prior to 70s, the variances did not have any expiration time. Actually, I think your father-in-law was on the ZBA back during that period.
Yeah.
That's really the only story. It's been in pretty much that same ownership for 50 years.
So somebody owned a pile of dirt basically for 50 years, it's just an empty,
Yes.
with, what was you can't speak to intent, but what was the intent for the lot? Is eventually to build, or, it just, why now? I'm just trying to understand what's going on.
I've dealt with the firm, or the people that own it, the firm that owns it, and they are a local firm out of Mansfield, and they are famous for going around back then, like a lot of other firms, buying up land and land banking it.
Waiting for the right time?
Waiting for the right time, and actually, this is the next generation
Okay,
that's now selling this piece off.
interesting. All right, that's helpful, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, I'm good.
You know, just going off what Seth said, we all know there isn't much land in town, so I'm surprised it took this long for it to become developed. I'm good with everything. We've got the okay from everybody that has to okay this, so if you guys don't have any other questions, I would take a motion.
First, we have to close the.
Oh, I'm
public
sorry.
meeting.
I'm sorry. Correct, Joe.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Motion to approve the Bay Colony Group Incorporated application for an earth removal permit to be exercised at 32 Cedar Street under the conditions set forth by the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, there's not going to vote on this one issue.
Oh, is,
Dennis is on.
he's not gonna vote
Not
on
until
anything
the,
now, okay,
He
okay.
voted in favor, though, just a
Oh,
second.
yeah, I didn't know if you wanted us to roll call or not, okay.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
great. Thank you, good luck with the project.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
take care, Rick. Good to see you.
so next up, we have another public hearing. It is for a farmer's pouring license for Shoveltown Brewery, which everybody's getting very excited that it will be up and running soon. Okay.
Ready?
Want to open up the hearing?
Yep.
Yeah.
The Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to MGL Chapter 138, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, beginning at 7:10 PM or thereabouts in the Gala Meeting Room, Town Hall, 40 South Street, Foxborough, Mass., on the application of an on-premises annual farmers pouring license for Shoveltown Brewery Incorporated, doing business as Station 1 by Shoveltown Brewery, 44 School Street, Foxborough, Mass., Manager James McSherry. Additionally, license requests approval of a common victualler and 7-day entertainment license for established hours of operation. All interested parties are welcome to attend.
Okay, great. Okay, so we have Jim and Frank here tonight. Why don't you give us a little update on what's going on?
All right, well, Jim McSherry, co-owner, Shoveltown Brewery. We've been working on this project for a short period of time, but getting a little closer. It's been a bit of a project to convert an old fire station into what we need, so turning a lot of the old into new, but we're moving along quite rapidly now with a tight schedule and hope to open up sometime the beginning of September.
Okay, great. This is kind of cut and dry for us. You've been before us before for the down by Comrades, that area down there. You're good business owners with history, with your other property. I think maybe the only thing I would ask, maybe just so people at home, again, a question I had earlier. Katie, can you just explain what the farmer's pouring license is for anyone that, it's a little, we don't get that one all the time.
State gives the farmer's brewing license, and that's just so that Shoveltown can brew their own beer, wine, and spirits, or distill them. And then the town at the local licensing authority gives the license to pour what they are actually making.
All right, great. I really didn't have anything else. Do you guys have some questions, or?
I'm just curious, so brewing beer or distilling spirits, you have your own quality control process. Is there any other process, or how do we make sure that, not that I'm suggesting there's, you have your food license and everything, but the food department or the Board of Health, is there any checks or anything behind,
There's no jurisdiction really with the Board of Health with
Yeah.
the manufacturing of alcohol.
Okay.
The common vic license would be, once again, the step process along the way to get approvals.
Okay.
There's going to be a full kitchen with a,
Yeah.
pizza oven and a full kitchen. So that would be under probably the Board of Health. But
All right, yeah,
as far as the brewing process, not that I'm really familiar with it, that
Mhm.
should be involved with.
okay. Thanks for helping me with that, I appreciate it.
We also have a permit through, or we're under the jurisdiction of the FDA, so they have
Yeah, okay,
oversight for us.
excellent,
As a manufacturing product.
Right, and on the manufacturing side,
Mhm.
not on the pouring side.
right, got it. All right, thank you.
Yeah. anything from you, Jack?
Well, really just so everybody out there knows, I am considered an abutter.
That's right, I'm sorry.
So I'm going to recuse myself throughout this whole process. Dennis is online, so he'll make that third vote to allow this to happen tonight.
All right, great. All right. Dennis, did you have anything you wanted to add or ask?
You're on mute.
Unmute myself out of practice. No, I recall actually at the advisory committee, a lot of these details and I think we walked through some of the same things that we're walking through tonight, including the pouring license. So I don't have any questions. I think it's a good project and the due diligence has been done and I think it's kind of ready to go forward.
Yeah, exactly. Your business history comes with you here from your other property, so I'm good with everything else. Should we go ahead and close the hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it. All those in favor?
You got to do this,
Oh,
you got the roll
roll.
call because of the situation.
Should we just go this way, Christina?
Yeah.
Stephanie, yes?
Seth, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Yes, yes. Okay, perfect.
Motion to approve the farmer's pouring license for malt, wine, and spirits by Shoveltown Brewery Incorporated, doing business as Station 1 by Shoveltown Brewery.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Stephanie, yes?
Seth, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Great. Excellent.
Does that include
A
the,
couple more.
yeah, there's
Oh,
two more
There's a common vic one there too, right?
And the entertainment.
Okay. Yeah.
So let the vote reflect that there was one abstention
Yeah.
on this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you just want to abstain, then we can go down.
Oh, I'm sorry, Doc, I know.
Oh, you want me to
I just keep
abstain?
forgetting about you tonight.
Abstain.
I know, I'm a wallflower tonight.
And both votes, by the way, not the.
All right.
just the one.
So it's 3-4,
Yep.
0 against, and one abstaining. Okay.
All right.
All right, Seth?
Motion to approve the common victualler and 7-day entertainment license for Shoveltown Brewery Incorporated, doing business as Station 1 by Shoveltown Brewery.
I'll second that. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Stephanie, yes?
Seth, yes.
Dennis, yes.
Okay.
And Mark abstained.
And one abstain, okay. All right, great.
Yeah, that's it, right?
We have one more.
17 entertainment license?
It was part of it was part of that last
Oh,
motion.
okay, all right, good. You guys are all set.
Okay, thank you very much. We're
Short and
looking
sweet
forward
tonight.
to opening.
Another hurdle done.
Looking forward to seeing you guys soon.
Welcome, thank you. Okay. All right, where are we now? Okay. Okay, so next up is, we have an application for use of a public way by the Gathering St Lowrider Car Show. Okay. Hi there, how are ya?
Good, how are you?
Good, can you just introduce yourself and give us a little background on
Yeah, sure.
the application?
So my name is Nick Cosentino. I work over at Lowrider Depot. We're also in the same building as MetroPack Industries. We've been there for longer than I've been alive, I believe, which would be about 27 years. We're basically just looking to host a little get-together and, have some of our friends who are also in the same business as us, selling air suspension and installing air suspension. Just have an event with us, our friends, vendors, food vendors, and a small car show. Nothing like what they do at Foxboro. But, just like a small get-together. And we just wanted to make sure that, we were doing everything and checking all our boxes.
Yep, perfect. And so it looks like this is going to be on Sunday, July 3rd, from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. You think you're going to have approximately 300 people. A lot of the information we hear, a lot of the boxes are checked off. You've got insurance. You're going to have a police detail there. It looks like everybody else, all the important people, police, fire, DPW, has all looked at the application, all given it their blessing. I just see that it says the health department will have to give permits for any of the food vendors you're going to have.
Okay.
And I guess the only question I had is, I'm not really familiar with the area, so I know it said that there's going to be parking on some of the streets there, and there's, you're hoping for like 300 people, so I guess that the police have okayed it. Is that crowded for that area, or is that,
I could explain a little bit
Yeah.
about what it's like. So,
Yeah.
it's right off Route 1 across from where Mom's South used to be. They
Okay.
moved further down past the state police barracks. And it's basically a T. So you drive all the way up that road. There's Answers Fitness, I believe it is now. It's been a few different gyms. There's a few other businesses there on the left and right. And then the back road is a net. And it's basically just a straight road with 2 cul-de-sacs on either end. We'll also have a majority of the show vehicles parked on our private property. We were just hoping to use mainly our side of the street for show cars as well. Basically parking them all in facing the same way, but on opposite sides of the road. And then allowing spectators to parallel park on the opposite side. So where Lincoln comes up and comes to a net, spectators would be on the left and show cars would be on the right. And then we also have a lot that we had cleared for additional spectator parking as well, which was not something that I had made clear or was in the works when we applied for the permit.
Great. Okay, well, like I said, it's the right people have okayed all this, but I just think it was nice for us to know and anybody at home just to kind of understand how it was going to be set up. And do you guys have some questions you'd like to ask?
So it's not a throughway, right?
No, it's not a throughway. It's dead end on either end.
Business park.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right.
Motion to approve a use of public way application for Lowrider Car Show on July 3rd from 1 to 5 p.m. on 10 Annette Road.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Awesome.
Have fun.
Great.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Good luck.
We hope to, maybe make this a reoccurring thing and possibly do this again.
Awesome.
Great.
That's good.
Thank you very much.
Great. Have a great day.
You too.
Thumbs up for good weather.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is, we would like to give a big thank you and give a citation from the Board of Selectmen for Eric Arvedon. Eric has given 31 years of elected volunteer to the Board of Health, which is a long time, and we would just want to show our appreciation. So, Seth, do you want to be the reader tonight, or would you like me to?
Sure.
Eric, why don't you come on up?
I'm passing the reading off to Seth. Oh, yeah, I should have, I'm sorry, I should have
No worries.
invited you up here, Eric.
Thank you.
Official citation, Foxborough Board of Selectmen. The Board of Selectmen commends Eric Arvedon for his 31 years of service to the Town of Foxborough Board of Health. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen and Town of Foxborough, recognition is given to Eric Arvedon for your outstanding service to the town as an elected member of the Foxborough Board of Health, where you served for over 31 years. You served not only as a member, but as chairman for multiple years during your tenure. Your continued service ensured stability, continuity, and a wealth of precedent-setting knowledge and experience for your fellow Board of Health members to draw from. You were notably a part of the decision to change the tobacco purchasing age from 18 to 21 in 2014 for the town of Foxborough, much earlier than many towns in the Commonwealth. You also led the Board of Health during the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic, which put public health in the spotlight like never before. We are forever grateful that you volunteered your time and talent to our community. Your guidance, hard work, and impact will never be forgotten. The Board of Selectmen hereby thank you for your many contributions, dedication, and commitment to the town of Foxborough. Our best wishes go with you as you begin the next chapter in your life. This citation is given on the 21st day of June, 2022, offered under the hands of the Board of Selectmen and the seal of the town of Foxborough. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bravo.
Congratulations, Eric.
Don't go anywhere yet, Eric. We have a couple more citations.
special guests.
Yeah, a couple more.
on.
So, yeah.
Or stand right up or what?
Yeah. We have Representative Jay Barrows and Senator Paul Feeney would also like to recognize you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Eric, congratulations. We want to thank you for all your service to the community of Foxborough. Certainly, especially after these last couple of years, which I know have not been easy. Our community is only as good as the people that step up and give of their time. And not only have you done that, we want to thank you not only for the work that you've done, but for the leadership that you've shown, the compassion and passion that you've led with. We are a better community because of your service. So to mark that occasion, Eric, we have an official citation from the State Senate. Be it known that the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Eric Arvedon in recognition of your 31 years of dedicated service to the town of Foxborough. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends its best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to and a copy thereof transmitted by the clerk. It is signed by our Senate President, Karen E. Spilka, and offered by a very grateful State Senator, Paul R. Feeney, June 21st, 2022. Congratulations, Eric, and thank you.
Not to be outdone, I'm a good friend from the Senate. Eric, congratulations, and thank you very, very, very much. 31 years is a long time, and what you've seen Foxborough go through in that 31 years, I should write a book. Especially the last 2.5 have been incredible, so thank you for your leadership. The Commonwealth of Mass, the House of Representatives, be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincere congratulations to Eric Arvedon in recognition of the celebration of your honorable retirement serving Foxborough's Board of Health. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses a hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given today, the 21st day of June, 2022, signed by Ronald Mariano, the Speaker, and yours truly, Jay Barrows. So, again, congratulations.
Jay, thank you.
Thank you.
Eric, can we steal you and take a quick photo with you?
With all these things?
Yes, it'd be great.
All this new paperwork.
Where are we going?
We need to give them a few frames to go with it.
Yeah, when do we get a chance to have all these important people? Giving you big kudos, right?
Look at this, yeah, right?
You look like that?
Shouldn't I have my
Right.
other board members?
Yeah.
Bring them up.
Come
on, guys.
We can do one with them now.
By the way, you're tall too. Oh, awesome.
Oh, these are my board members.
Oh, the board members.
Joe, put it in next. Next.
We didn't remember, we gotta bring that up too. That should be here, he's the director, so.
I tried to get out.
I didn't want
Perfect.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Eric, before you run away,
You are, what do I get from you?
Eric, before you run away, what are you going to do with your free time now? Anything planned?
Well, I have a small sailboat that I've been playing on, and it's gonna be in the Bahamas for next year.
Good for you.
Good for you.
Sounds nice.
Yeah, sounds nice. Well deserved.
Starting in November. I mean, I'd be on the board. There's no reason not to be on the board. It's just, I want to be in the Bahamas, and now's the time.
There you
So,
go.
and I don't want to have to do it like Zoom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's not really fair to the rest of the group, you know,
Yeah.
so, and especially when I get dirty looks. When I show up with
And a
no
great
shirt
team.
on at the meeting.
Well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let the adventure begin, right, Eric? Let the
What's that?
event, let the adventure begin, right?
Gotcha.
All right,
Thanks.
all right.
Okay. So, and then I guess we have our gentleman sitting right there ready. We're going to have a State House update from Representative Barrows and Senator Feeney.
Excellent.
Well, good evening on the longest day of the year.
Yes.
Excited. That's right. Should be able to leave here with daylight still.
That's right.
So we won't keep you that long, but we just wanted to kind of give you a little bit of an update of what we're we're doing, what we've been working on together, and I must say that the senator and I have enjoyed, trying to figure out what to do with the American Rescue Plan, Build Back Better plan, the money that we've taken in at the state level to make sure that Foxborough gets a little piece of that. And so what we've done with regard to the state budget, amendments that we're filing and just trying to figure our way through the minutia. The State House is beginning to pick up their pace, thank goodness.
About time.
Yeah, about time, because our session actually ends the end of July. So every bill that has been filed throughout this last 18 months has to be disposed of or voted on one way or the other, up or down. So the House and Senate, I wish they got along as well as Paul and I do, because we probably get a lot more done. Because you've got that, I want this, somebody wants that, and you've got the pushback. So it's sometimes a little difficult to try to figure out which way the wind's blowing. He might be getting something from the Senate that says, we're really going to do this, and I'll hear something from the House that says, there's no way we're going to be able to adopt that bill in that format. So both of us meet regularly with the administration, at least monthly, and we're probably on the phone 2, 3 times, 4 times a week. I've got a really good picture of Bill and Mike when they call, they come up. So I either hit answer or don't. No, I do. So Paul and Paul is going to go over some of the budget issues that we're working on, and we will certainly want to hear from you, what you believe your priorities are, and what we might be able to do to help get everybody across the finish line.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you, Representative. Madam Chair, thank you. Members of the board, I do want to just, a couple of those thoughts here. We speak frequently with Bill and with Mike and with Christina and Katie and, of course, the entire staff here at Town Hall, just so that we can make sure that when we do have opportunities up in the State House, whether it's in the Senate or the House, that we at least kind of have our finger on the pulse and figure out, what are our priorities. Both the representative and I, work famously together, so we're always, we probably talk at least a couple of times a day on the issues that we're facing in our district. So kind of brings me to where we're at in our session. As you likely know, we're in the second year of a 2-year session, so the legislative cycle began last January. It ends at midnight on July 31st, so as the representative said, there's about, probably close to 7,000 bills filed this year. Many of them have already been discharged from their committee, which means we have, hundreds, if not thousands of bills sitting there waiting to get some momentum to get done. The process is tedious to work through each of those bills, but there are a few things that we know have to happen every year. We have a general appropriation bill, our budget. We know that that's a bill that's going to reach the governor's desk, sometimes later than others, but this year we're on track so far. The way that works, and you all know, and I know Bill has briefed the board many times, both the Senate and the House meet with the administration starting around December, and they figure out what the consensus revenue is going to be. So they meet with economists, we meet with the administration, everybody takes a deep dive into what the receipts are that are coming in, and we try and come up with a consensus revenue figure. Once that figure is adopted, everybody abides by that. So the governor comes out with his budget in early January or mid-January. The House then takes a stab at it in April, and then the Senate, we back clean up in May. But we all agree to that number. So even if we're starting to see that we're exceeding projections for this current fiscal year, we try and budget as conservatively as possible with the understanding that everybody agreed to this number. There may be different ideas of how we spend it, but that's where we want to get to. So we're in I shouldn't say the middle of that process, we're towards the end of that process now. The governor filed his budget. The House had their debate in April. We had ours at the end of May. Roughly a $50 billion budget this year. I believe it's about a 2.7% increase in UGA, which is the unrestricted local aid, which is what we care about, the cherry sheet numbers that we care about in the communities, along with education funding. Happy to report that with this year's budget, we are fully funding our obligation to the Student Opportunity Act, which means that money for charter school reimbursement, transportation reimbursement for special education, that is all on track. We were worried last year and the year before in the pandemic that once we started to see the economy skid a little bit, that we weren't going to be able to meet those obligations.
we've been able to do that this year. The big kind of point on the state budget, and this is important because I know the rep and I want to talk about this in a second. We were able to fund our rainy day fund. So everybody knows the state has a stabilization fund like anybody that does a budget. You want to stock some money away. It's very important to us to maintain our bond rating, as it is to this community, which has a stellar bond rating. The state, it's important for us to be able to borrow at the best terms. So to be able to have that stabilization fund at a point where all the rating agencies say, yep, that's where you need to be, Massachusetts, so you can borrow efficiently. We were able to fund that, I believe at historic levels this year, we're talking over $6.74 billion. So if you think about a $50 billion base budget, $6.74 billion in the stabilization fund can hopefully allow us to weather the storm that we think and we're hearing is coming. This year, it's been well noted that we're exceeding projections each quarter. You know, we set benchmark for that consensus revenue number, and the receipts have been coming in. So the, receipts are coming in well and exceeding projections. But it was important for us still to kind of budget as conservatively as possible, because everybody's telling us, all the economists that we're meeting with, and both the representatives in leadership on Ways and Means, we're hearing constantly from people that say we are facing down what looks to be probably a pretty significant recession next year. So we want to make sure that we have the funds in place so that we're not making 9C cuts, which Bill can tell you, being in local government for as many years as he has, that those are painful cuts that come to a community after the budget's already been passed for the fiscal year. So we think we're in good shape that way. For Foxborough, the representative mentioned we try and look for opportunities whenever possible, whether it's in the budget or in the ARPA bill that he had spoken about, to take local priorities in our district and make sure that we're funding those directly. We do that, some people call them earmarks, we call them local priorities. Essentially what we're doing is we're taking a piece of that bill and we're saying you have to spend money for this purpose in this community. And the reason why we do that is because we know our communities best. We certainly don't want, a leader from another part of the state deciding what Foxborough is going to spend their money on. So when we go through that process, we pick up the phone, we talk to Bill, we talk to Mike, we talk to each of you and others in the community and say, what are our priorities? Where do we need to spend money? These aren't big ticket items generally, but they usually are. There are some opportunities for us to help. This year, especially in working with Paige, we were able to successfully get an earmark in both the House and the Senate version for $50,000 for uptown or downtown, depending on who you talk to in Foxborough, but to promote a walkable kind of downtown, to make sure that we're doing the parking lot behind the stores, and maybe do some outdoor dining in that little kind of alleyway there. We saw an opportunity. Jay was able to successfully get it in the House. We got it in the Senate, and that currently sits in conference committee. So the way it works, House conferees, Senate conferees, 3 from each branch, they meet together and work out the differences. And then we go and we shake the trees and bang the doors and make sure that we're advocating to make sure that all that money that we successfully got in actually makes it through the process and goes to the governor's desk. So that's in the budget for this year. Other highlights, and I'll save you, but I mentioned special education, transportation reimbursement, Student Opportunity Act, charter school reimbursement, which is, to be honest with you, Foxborough has taken the lead on that for many, many years. Representative and I have been bringing up local officials from Foxborough. Certainly you have for your entire tenure.
Started, right?
Right. And saying this is money that should not be lost because we have students going to a charter school. So that 100% tuition reimbursement is key for us. That's going to be a fight probably each budget, depending on what happens. But right now we've been able to meet that commitment, which is good for us and certainly something that we advocate for constantly. And then I'll leave you with this and then take questions or ideas. The ARPA spending. So we know that the federal government put out through the ARPA bill last year, or 2 years ago, last session, they put out certain tranches of money. Some went directly to the county, some came directly to the municipality, other money went to the state. We've taken our kind of first bite at the apple with the ARPA funding through our process in the legislature, and that we tried to kind of triage the most emergent issues, right? Healthcare. Obviously, in the midst of a pandemic, we want to make sure that we were protecting our healthcare systems. Other areas where we saw that there was a need in housing, right? Unemployment, right? Where we had such a
an enormous amount of people that were going on to unemployment that never paid into the system. We're talking gig workers and things like that. So we got creative in that first tranche. We used it for I'm excited initiative that we had led on to get money to premium pay essentially for essential workers, saying, look, we know you had to go to work. You couldn't sit home at Zoom, on Zoom at work. You had to go into the office. You had to put yourself in a situation where maybe in the height of a pandemic you were at risk, and somebody went out, essentially a stimulus payment to those essential workers. ARPA 2.0, which is basically the next bite at the apple that we're going to have, is kind of up for debate right now. And the representative and I were talking this afternoon. The governor filed this this kind of hybrid bill. I think they call it the Forward Act. I think the Forward Bill. And Bill's been really up on this because there's a significant amount of money that would come to Foxborough on that. But what the governor did is he filed the bill as a bond bill and using some ARPA money. Now, bonding, for anybody that's watching at home, bonding is different than an appropriation bill. On a budget bill, the legislature actually appropriates, right? By statute, by constitution, we're the ones that appropriate the funding. On a bonding bill, we approve the borrowing, so we will, meet in a session and we'll approve certain items. But that doesn't get released unless the administration, the governor, essentially releases that funding. It's usually for a certain period of time, usually like a 5-year period that authorization will exist for, and then the governor could actually release that funding if it's there. The governor's bill on the Forward Act, which again means it means a lot to Foxborough. Not every community throughout the state, but it means a lot to Foxborough because of what's in it. The House leadership took a different approach in their committee when they put out that bond bill. They essentially struck all of the ARPA piece of it, all the ARPA spending, and they left what we call skinny bond bill, which is just kind of basic borrowing to re-up so that, you could pay the bills and borrow for the most important things you need to borrow for. But the ARPA spending was out of that. I didn't support that coming out of committee because there's a little bit of back and forth now on what that's going to look like. The representative and I are looking for a way, if that bill comes before us, to either insert that spending, so that we can ensure it's an appropriation and not just a long-term bonding solution, or, if there's going to be some sort of other standalone bill that we can make sure that money's there. So, a little bit of a kind of a mixed message right now because that money that was proposed by the governor is not in that bond bill in its current stages. But we think, hopefully if it does come before us, we're able to reinsert some of that spending.
We don't want to put it into something that we're not sure of an appropriation. Right. Because we have an opportunity on Walnut Street and Route 140. The state, after years of negotiation, gave us the property. We worked hard to expand sewer, so we have access to sewer. We've been working with District 5 to create which that was the most dangerous intersection from the Foxborough Common to the Norton Common, to try to rectify the speeds and, whether that's signalization or some other technique that would slow things down and make it safe, and add housing that is affordable, that meets the needs of this community and obviously many others. We can't restrict it just to Foxborough. So we're trying to figure out a way to get it. And when, again, we've all been advocating, both the senator and I have been working with Auchincloss's office as well to say, this is a priority. Again, with the state highway, they put it on the transportation investment plan that kind of moves it up in rank. And so it seems to be, it has some legs. And the governor recognized that after numerous, calls and reach outs to say, hey, we really want to do this. And, but it just takes so long. And so what the senator and I talked about this afternoon is if we threw it into the transportation bond bill that's coming up in the House on Thursday, and they say, oh yeah, Barrows, you can have that. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to get that, right? So I can write a nice press release and, we can take a picture and shake hands, but it doesn't mean it's coming through. So we want the appropriation. So, so we'll see how we do. But I'm counting on him.
And I point my finger to him.
And
So,
together you guys will make it happen.
We'll figure it out somehow. We usually do, yeah.
see if we can pull it off, but
The good news is that you're working as a team. That's
Yeah.
really, really impressive. So, and I mean, from two different parties, which is really quite impressive unto itself. But the fact that you, and I can say firsthand, these guys are terrific. I mean, we work a lot of different issues, and we get recognized a lot because of this relationship. So it's really important that people know that we have a really good relationship with these guys, and they do everything they can for us in many ways.
And I think the two of us are pretty sensitive. It's some tough going out there right now, and it's going to get worse. And we've got to come up with a way to make sure that there's funding for a heat program, because a lot of our seniors are obviously on fixed incomes and oil heat and gas, and it's going to be brutal. My side of the aisle, we've been trying to push a gas tax holiday or something. The feds are now looking at it. We haven't had any luck yet, but maybe we will. And not to say that it won't happen or there'll be another way or another solve, but we just have to keep pushing whichever direction we can and try to get some relief for the folks in Foxborough and the surrounding areas. Paul's got a lot more towns than I do, and we know it's going to be brutal by the time we get into October and November. Really going to be, scary.
And Madam Chair, members of the board too, the representative brought up the gas tax, and we're looking at, there's going to be, I believe, some sort of tax proposal, some sort of tax package that's going to come before us. That's what we've been told. We haven't seen it yet. There have been kind of fits and starts on certain relief. I actually voted with the Representatives Party in voting to suspend the gas tax, because people don't realize, right, that you look at my district. I have I have 9 communities in the district, roughly 170,000 people, and these are blue-collar communities, right? And you talk with some of your legislative colleagues, and I think our job as advocates is to get them to realize that not everybody is in the same position, right? We're not all in, extremely wealthy communities, in the leafy suburbs of Boston. That there is a real effect here. When you talk about the formula shortage and you talk about inflation, the price of gas, there is a real effect. And the effect that has, especially on a community like Foxborough, is significant. And there are people that, they hold off on spending. They hold off on going out to eat. They hold off on spending money up at Patriot Place or in our uptown. So it's important for us, and we think that there's going to be some sort of tax package that comes out. As I started off with, we are exceeding projections. So there is money there to be spent. The question is, can we cobble together enough support so that we can get our priorities met? We're a legislature of 200 people, 40 senators, 160 representatives. So our kind of main job is to advocate, exclusively for our district. We both represent people in the state, which is why we're working on, I'm working on homelessness projects and veterans housing out in Holyoke and across the state, and the representatives working on a lot of issues that are statewide. But for us to be able to advocate effectively for the needs of Foxborough, that's where we spend most of our time. But I think we may see something coming up, hopefully before the end of the session. I would never commit to it because we haven't seen it yet, but we're hoping.
Just earlier today, we received notification from the governor's office that they're going to be coming to Foxborough on the 29th. Lieutenant Governor will be here, and we'll be meeting out at Walnut Street to talk about that very project that the representative and the senator spoke about this evening, because they want to advocate for that $4.6 million that we're looking for to help build that. And they think it's smart, and that's an important enough project that it requires their level of attention. So the Lieutenant Governor and the Secretary of Economic Development or Housing and Community Development will be here. Secretary Keneally will be here to help advocate on behalf of that bill, and so that it does get funded in one way, shape, or form, which is something that we really do hope we'll see happen. It is a key component of building that project, because without it, it just simply won't happen.
And what's funny, through the chair, if it's okay.
Absolutely, Doc.
I mean, that checks off a lot of boxes that the state wants.
Exactly right.
It checks off the housing box. It checks off what we've wanted, a safety, a light in an area that's one of the dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, the investments over the years that have taken place, and it was a dream of somebody to say, we ought to do something with that land, and we're looking forward to working with the Housing Authority. Greg Spear, brilliant guy, and can help us get through some of those challenges. And we've got so many things that are checked off. And I was at a Metropolitan Area Planning Council meeting, I think it was last week, and they asked what's going on, and I said, well, let me ask you about this project. We got this done, this done, this done. And they're going, yeah, you should fund it, because everybody's screaming about housing and transportation and all that stuff. So, we've got a lot of boxes checked off, and we're further ahead than many. So, that's why we hope that we're not, in order to get some of these funds, you have to be, the old quote back in the Obama days was shovel ready, right? You got to be ready. And if you're ready, you can strike, because you're going to go up against a bunch of people with pie in the sky that this probably was 15 years ago, but we're ready, right? So, so we'll see if we get lucky, but it's great that they're going to come out, and hopefully we can get there. That 2:30, I think you said?
2:30 on next Thursday.
Okay.
Wednesday, thank you.
Wednesday.
On the 29th, right, Wednesday.
Okay.
We're getting an invitation.
Okay.
Everything's finalized.
We'll probably be in session.
Yeah. The house is generally in on Wednesdays. We're usually in on Thursdays, but, and that's, that's the other thing too, and I just want to mention, I'd be remiss if I didn't, and I can't say this everywhere, I honestly can't, but in Foxborough, the representative and I, we're pretty proud that a lot of the times when these sorts of initiatives happen, there's outreach from the administration, there's outreach from our colleagues and leadership in the Senate and the House, there's outreach from all different organizations, because we're doing a lot right. And I know we're not perfect in this community or in our district, but when we look at things like regional sewer that the rep worked on for so many years, that's a model of what we should be doing across state. Regional dispatch, right? SEMRECC and the work that they're doing up there. We had the lieutenant governor down and the various secretariats, and that's something that we're actually using those best practices that we're doing in Foxborough, and we're trying to replicate that through our district and then throughout the Commonwealth. And it's because of the outreach that we get and the messaging that we get from the town manager and from the board, from our public safety chiefs. We have a bill coming up in the Senate this Thursday that literally wasn't not even on my radar screen. And I got a text message and a call from Chief Grace, who said, can I talk to you about this? And before I even heard that the bill was coming up. That helps, right? When we hear from Chief Kelleher on issues affecting public safety, that sort of thing helps us, kind of focus in on what the priorities of the town are. So we're pretty proud that, Foxborough's doing a lot of things right. Including Foxborough Founders Day, by the way, which
Awesome.
I got the sunburn on my head. I should have taken Doc's straw hat before we went out, but it was a great day, and I just can't thank everybody enough for that.
The DJ extraordinaire.
I was gonna say,
I was
play
DJing.
good music.
Yeah, I was DJing. Yeah,
Play good
it was
music.
fun. It was fun. Yeah.
Excellent.
So if you have anything you'd like to add?
So I did have one question, and it was around something that Paige, who former title was town planner, now it's
Land use director.
the land use director. She brought something in front of us a while back that was around a state mandated housing development, or something where we needed to have a certain number of units or a certain density based on our criteria, the criteria from the state, where we have train, MBTA, that type of thing. So that was, I think a lot of us were concerned about that and what that meant to the town and what kind of investment that was going to drive. We have things we need to do in town. We need to renovate schools and that type of thing. And so we just had a lot of concern around that, and was wondering if you had any thoughts.
I think there's, I think there's a ton of concern, and it's in draft form right now. It was within, I think, a half mile of a train station or transportation hub. You had to do a density of like 15 to 1
units,
or something,
yeah.
15 units to 1 acre,
Right.
which out here, it's like, that's not even imaginable.
Right.
So there was a lot of pushback by many communities, and Bill took the lead, and got a letter in, and so we're advocating the same. It's like, it's too much. It's like, we don't have to, maybe over a 10-year period or 15 years, but you grow into that, but you can't do that in that length of time. So we're probably going to see some changes to that. And then we've also got the administrations changing.
Yep.
We got, either way. So I just think it was a little too late of what they were offering.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because, I don't think there's anybody in Foxborough that isn't for affordable housing or wanting to, to see the housing issues become better. But then, then you go back and you say, well, like, we chose Foxborough, or any community someone else might have chosen because it's a little bit smaller. You didn't want to live in the city. You didn't want the density. You wanted a little bit of room. And then, like Seth says, then you hear all of a sudden, when you think something's to be mandated. Now, I thought the whole time, as soon as Greg Spear started talking about maybe that senior housing and, on Walnut Street and stuff, I thought to myself, I said, well, that's going to take care of so many things, because that's what you hear. The seniors are just, either they don't want to have to take care of homes anymore, or it's too expensive.
Right.
They can't do the work. Maybe they can't mow the lawn anymore. They have to pay someone to mow the lawn, or, so if you find a place for them, then that opens up their homes for other families, people who want to come to Foxborough. So it's, instead of having to grow Foxborough with more homes, you're checking off a few of the boxes. But I think everybody understands. It's just, it's the whole country right now. It's not even just like an issue we're dealing with here. People live longer. You don't have that, as we were, that natural progression where, okay, people passed, somebody else went into their house, and so grateful for everything you guys are doing, because we want to keep that small town charm too, but we recognize what the problems are in housing, and we want to be diverse too. It's not about not wanting people to come to Foxborough. It's just you kind of made yourself where the community you want it to be, and nobody likes change either.
Right.
Just becomes, but.
I would just say to those comments, I mean, duly noted, there's a lot of communities that are struggling with this right now. Interestingly enough, that initiative around the MBTA communities was in the governor's housing choice package that for you, Secretary Keneally had come down and spoken with, all of us here in this delegation and local officials to say, look, there are a few things that we have to do. There are communities that are wrestling with this and trying to be proactive and, pass inclusionary zoning, or to look beyond 40B and say, okay, maybe we're in safe harbor, but maybe there are different things we can do for density. Another piece of that was to lower the threshold at town meeting. So instead of a 2/3 for a zoning change, it would be a simple majority, right? Because they noticed in a lot of places where there was open town meeting, it was impossible to do any of that, right? To get a super majority. And then the other piece of this was the MBTA communities to say, look, we really need you to focus on housing around transportation, and with the type of density that most towns weren't adopting. There's no doubt we're in a housing crisis, and all of you have recognized that we're in a housing crisis in Massachusetts and across the country. But there are many people that it's completely unaffordable, especially when you're saddled with lifelong college debt, or if you have trying to start a family, people are deferring that many years. It's too expensive. So the governor's approach to that was, let's do all of these little things that we can do to hopefully make a big difference. The problem is, it sounds great on paper, but then the practical application of that is a challenge. So the administration now is trying to kind of draft, and to the representative's point, Bill's been a leader on that to make sure that we're advocating effectively to say, look, this is something we can live with, this is something we can't. But ultimately, the administration's going to make a decision on how they're going to enforce that piece. That was in an economic development bond bill last session. We'll see. But it's duly noted that it is a struggle. We just have to work very, very hard to try and get as much housing as possible, to put some kind of downward pressure on what we're seeing, but to do so while still protecting kind of the unique character of each of our communities.
And it'll be interesting with the economy and the increasing level of interest rates.
Yeah.
Last year, you saw an 11% increase kind of townwide on values. So now with the increase in interest rates that are almost double what they had been historically for the previous 3 or 4 years, what does that do to the value? They start coming back down again. But the other side of the coin is the cost of goods to build a home or apartments, or it's gone the complete other way with the inflation. So it's really hard to see where we land. But I do think, from what I'm hearing from a number of people, is it's got to be a longer period of time, and it's got to be like not 15 to 1 when you get out in a community such as Foxborough and others that are out here. you know, suburbia is not going to go for it, and people will revolt. We don't want any of that. So we got it.
Yeah, well, I mean, just in closing, sort of, through the chair, I think we're very lucky to have you guys. I mean, to have you guys be able to work together, not worry about the R or the D. You know, we all know how hard you work for us in the community, and it's nice to know that, you know, we can walk up to you and talk to you and you'd listen. We know both of you will listen, which is important for our community, and thank you for all the work you guys do. I don't know how you do it.
Absolutely. I mean, you both are present, you know, Founder's Day, we see you. Memorial Day, we see you, you know, you're a present part of our community, and it is greatly appreciated, like Doc said.
Yeah, there's got to be 2 or 3 of you each to be able to go everywhere you guys go.
Listen,
Great staffs, put it that way.
oh, yeah, we are blessed. It should, thank you. In addition to the town staff that deserves a lot of accolades, our staff legislatively, they make us look good. And I've sat on that side of the table, and trust me, that is not easy either, so, yeah.
No, it's an honor, obviously, and a privilege to, you know, to serve, and we thank you guys gals for running and stepping up and making those decisions that some days we'll kind of giggle and go, man, I'm glad I don't have to vote on that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the 2 of them giggling?
Yeah, we do. Honest.
Yeah.
But thank you. Thanks for having us tonight.
Thank you so much
And
for coming.
we're happy to come back, you know, maybe when this thing, we get things settled and get a little bit of a breather after the surge of bills come through the end of
Yeah.
July. So we'll be drinking out of a fire hose when that happens. It's going to be wild. And he said 12 o'clock on July 30th.
Yeah.
I've seen the clock turn into like 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
On July 30th. The clock stops at 12 and we keep going.
People don't realize the legislature has the ability to stop time. At midnight of July 31st, the clock miraculously stops.
Yeah.
But you know, there's a lot to that, right? I mean, we have Plainridge up the street. We have typically the last day of session will deal with a lot of local bills. The extension on simulcasting and live racing, you know, that's jobs. I mean, we have a couple hundred people that live in Foxboro that work at that track,
Right.
that all of a sudden it's 10 minutes before midnight in the last day of session, and they're not going to be licensed in 10 minutes. So those are typically the things that I'll call Jay and I'll say, we're up against it. What are you doing over in the house? And try and get it done. But yeah, 6 weeks left, so we're moving.
I just have one question, because I know we have other people waiting, so I want to get through this. But civil service, any update on that? Either one of you guys? Any one on that? And just
Well, you've sent your letter.
I've sent my.
I've sent my
I think
letter.
we've done everything we possibly can on
I've
this.
spoken with the House Chair. I mean, we're just,
I just said no.
again, one of those that will bubble up here
Maybe at the end,
shortly.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
and just to kind of put a pin in that one. So the committee that handles all the civil service bills, you know, the Joint Committee on Public Service, and we had a great hearing where folks from Foxboro testified. The Committee on Public Service is kind of taking a different approach this year when it comes to communities getting out of civil service, and it's kind of all different ways that different communities do it. Attleboro is trying a different approach than Foxboro is, and that Mansfield did. But what the committee said is, look, we just had this commission get together and talk about civil service statewide. What we need to know from the community is if you're getting out of civil service, that you have a plan to address diversity in hiring, to address veterans' preference in hiring. Basically give us your plan, and as long as we know that we're going to be holding some of those pieces of civil service harmless, then we'll approve it. I have at least 2 bills, including the Foxborough one, and I have one from Attleboro that are in that stage now where the committee's still reviewing it. But at this point, you know, we're getting close to being under the gun, and I think, you know, the rep and I will certainly try and get it done before the last day of session. But, you know, the committee's been a little bit slower this year because of that process than years past.
We are very pleased to note that we do have a plan, and
Right.
and we're working the plan. So to the extent that's, that you need that, any piece of that, we're happy to share it with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you much.
Thanks, guys. Good
Thank
to see you both.
Good to see you.
I'm gonna step off for 1 second. I'll be right back. Right back.
Okay, next up we have, a discussion on extended hours of work up at Gillette Stadium on the north end zone. Chief?
Do we have a?
We do have Greg Gagnon, who works for the Suffolk Group, coming on to Zoom right now.
Okay.
Just give him a moment.
Yes, hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah, maybe you don't need me.
Chief?
Well, we're both in the same boat on this one. So I think, is Greg here from?
He's on.
Yes, I'm here.
On video. Just give him a
Yep.
sticker.
It's true.
So Greg's the senior project manager for Suffolk University, construction company.
Okay, we're just waiting for the representative from, he's from the construction company, actually, right?
Yep.
He'll hop on Zoom with us, so we'll be right with everybody. There we go.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me at all or no?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So really what we're looking for is we're trying to look for extended hours from 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. And most likely it would be, let me see, it would end up being work for structural steel erection, soil excavation, demolition of existing retaining walls, and installation of an earth retention wall, and then miscellaneous concrete pours.
And what's the limit now?
So currently they have a permit for Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. So they're up and running, and I believe they may be a little behind, so, for things that they can't control, so they want to stay on there. I believe it's the fall of 2023 for the
Correct.
opening of the fall season of the NFL games. So they're forecasting in the future where they're at with the project right now, and they don't want to get so far behind that they can't recover. Obviously, the winter in New England also imposes some unknowns as well, so this is the time to do it.
And we're still going to stay away from, the new plan will still stay away from Sunday? It's just extending,
No Sundays.
yeah, just extending from 7 PM to 11 PM on the existing days.
So what is that noise level going to be from 7 to 11?
So right now, much less work. It would be individual scopes of work at each time. So the loudest that we're thinking you might hear is a hammer against some steel. And even then, we can try to maneuver our crews so they don't have to do that at night, and they do that during the day. So what you'd really hear is just an excavator running, so the humming sound of their muffler, and or the sounds of cranes moving. And reality is they're just lifting steel and putting it into place. When we're digging, it's no different than hearing a truck drive by, if you're near the stadium.
Okay, I guess when I read this, I guess my thoughts were, 100% get it. You guys want to get as much work as that done. I guess, and I did talk to Christina earlier, and I know you guys had met probably with Bill, right?
Yes, correct. We had a
Chief
meeting.
and- yeah.
All the department heads had a meeting, so
Yeah.
that way we
So-
were prepared if there was
Yeah.
something that popped up. So we had a workflow on how to deal with a complaint. So internally, we have already developed that process. More than likely, the police department would get the call. We're going to move that call to the building inspector. He's going to have direct contact with the project foreman on site that day, that moment, about what activity is occurring. Obviously, our building commissioner is well versed on what's the nature of the work, what's happening, so we can address that. Also, Suffolk has already outlined that they will be doing sound testing 4 hours prior to the extension, so between 4 and 7. They're going to say, well, this is the noise that we're at already. It's within the reasonable level, so they want to make sure that they could maintain that but not exceed it for the extension. So they've built a lot of internal safeguards as well, and they're communicating with the building inspector, with Matt and his team, and so we're pretty confident that we're going to be able to address anything that occurs that impacts the residents.
Yeah.
On-site safety, a lot of times when someone goes for a permit, we're looking at roads, et cetera. On scene, there's no concerns. They already have a security division on site that's working around the flow of traffic and pedestrians. Everything's already isolated, so there's no concerns with that. Obviously, noise would be probably our biggest challenge, and so we've developed that workflow.
Yeah, Doc?
Yeah, so I guess when I was looking at it, that was the one that jumped to me right from the beginning is the noise. We're talking, 7 to 11, neighborhood right next door, young kids. We all know once fall comes and the winter comes, the buffeting of the trees, so that noise, we can all, in the winter time here, the guns go off when the Patriots score, because even uptown here, because the buffers of the trees and stuff. I want to make sure that if there is a noise complaint, that, whatever, something's louder than normal, they started a project that is louder, that we can shut it down if we need to and have them do other stuff.
Yeah, that was all discussed today as part of our process.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make sure that, and Suffolk is fully cooperative in that endeavor to make sure that that happens. They've outlined the process that will happen, and it's in their best interest as well as ours to make sure that this happens cooperatively. And they've indicated that their process is going to have a shut-off in case there is a problem, but they're going to recognize that we'll have the ability to investigate it and to check on it to make sure that it is an excessive noise. Matt's been involved. Matt will be involved because Matt's a sound person for the town in that respect, and our building commissioner will be dealing directly with Suffolk in that matter. The chief, based upon the way that the bylaw is written, is that he is the point of response initially, but we're going to work on this as a team to make sure that happens, and all the right people who are the experts in the particular areas will be addressing the situation. This is not something that's new, by the way. We did do this back in 2017. We had a building K, I believe, was under construction at Patriot Place in Gillette, and we were able to, we did extend the hours then, and we had really essentially no real issues and no real concerns that came out of that particular event. And it was very similar to what is being proposed here. This is probably just a bigger scale than what we had back in 2017. That's all.
Yeah. Well, and you guys have a plan, because you know what's going to happen.
Right.
You will get phone calls that,
Right.
aren't- even if it isn't super loud, somebody will hear something, you'll get the phone calls. And that's where I was going before I talked to Christina and she told me you guys had a big meeting today and kind of worked all that stuff out, because I was like, okay, this is great, but do we have that little, like Doc said, do we have that little window that if it's, you start getting the complaints, but now, just so everybody at home knows, that that's all been discussed, if there are complaints,
We have a
the
process.
process will be to have the decibels checked, and I'm sure, Greg, and I know this probably doesn't sound, it sounds easier said than done, but is there certain things that you can do that might be louder, on those earlier hours? I know sometimes there's just a process of how things are gonna get done, and you're not gonna be able to control that, but is that part of your plan?
Yeah, so ideally, if there's something that needs to be jackhammered out, we would hammer up until 7 p.m. and then just do processing after 7 p.m. to 11 to get everything out of the way.
And obviously with SEMRECC here, I'm sure they're going to get their share of calls if there's a noise complaint.
Rob will have his share of involvement.
Okay, he's
His folks
included
will-
in that, obviously.
And myself, and I'll work with Rob and his staff
Yeah.
on those calls, make sure that we're sending them to the right person.
Right.
Scott's already agreed to take all the phone calls after they've been triaged.
Okay.
It sounds like we have the right, there's recourse for citizens if there's issues. And so as long as we follow that process, I think that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
So, Madam Chair, just to be clear about what's happening, what's happening, we among the staff level folks felt very comfortable with a Monday through Friday extension, but we're a little bit concerned about extending that through Saturday initially, but we're prepared to look at it again. We're saying within 30 days. If things go well, we'll be happy to come back and talk to you again about that possibility. I think we mentioned that to Greg. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, Greg, that we talked about that.
Yeah.
We want to make sure that this is going well, and because if it's not going well, we don't want to impact people's weekends either. So we certainly want to make sure that we're trying to do it the right way and that everything is going as projected. Okay.
Just one more quick question, just out of curiosity, any noise complaints with the process so far?
So we haven't received any complaints to our department. Cameron from our office has been going into the community doing some baseline noise readings to get a baseline for concerts, construction, and other things. And we're confident that, if an issue does come up, we'll be able to go out there and respond appropriately and to find out if it's, over the DEP 10 decibels over ambient, which is what the DEP requires for noise complaints. So if we'll be in touch with Suffolk if that happens, if we find out a violation is occurring in the community, and we'll work with them to get it rectified.
And just so everybody at home knows, we were given what some of the different work that's going to be done and what the noise level will be. And, reading it all seems very, very reasonable. So just so people know at home that we've, and we also know how long all of this work isn't going to be until, at different levels, until October. Some of it will be 5 weeks, 5 to 7 weeks. There's different things. So the board, as well as the staff with everybody involved, has done a lot of work to make this as easy for the community as possible. So, okay, you want to make a motion?
So you would need a motion if the board is acceptable to the terms.
Yep.
A motion to approve.
Motion to approve the outdoor off-hours work request for the Gillette Stadium North End Zone under the conditions set forth by the Foxborough Police Chief and Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
All right, good luck.
Good luck, Greg.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks.
Thanks, Matt.
You want to stick around for Rob's presentation, Chief? It's up to you. You've probably seen it 100 times.
We have a lot of communication.
Okay. Okay, next up, we have, we're going to be talking about SEMRECC, and there's just some small changes to the, what would you call that?
This is the governance agreement.
Governance agreement, okay. And so the other towns, Mansfield, Norton, and Easton, we were going to try to get a big meeting. Of course, it had to get a quorum of your own board sometimes to get 4 boards together. So anyhow, the other boards have already met, and they have taken a vote. Everybody else is on board, and Foxborough is the last one just to hear about it and hopefully hop on board as well.
Great. So thank you, Madam Chair. Come on up, Rob, when you're ready. Sure. And then just to make sure this is lined up and ready to go.
Yeah, he's just hopping onto Zoom so we can make a presentation.
Okay.
Just that, sorry.
So just by way of introduction of the issue, the other 3 towns were able to meet at SEMRECC a couple weeks ago to go over the changes that the board is seeing tonight. Essentially, these changes are important, so that first it updated the agreement to what the current language actually should say, based on the operational changes that have been made since SEMRECC began, and also to allow the town, the district rather, to actually expand to absorb a few more communities, which was always the plan from day one, was to start small and then continue to grow. We're now at that point where we think we can do that successfully as a region. So Rob will fill you in on those details, but I think it's just important to note that the region that we did meet the other night And all three boards voted unanimously to support these changes. So everybody's fully aware. Our goal was to get everybody in the same room, but as I think the term is actually referred to as like herding cats, is more likely the case here. It's hard to do that with five very important boards, or four very important boards, obviously, with five people doing it. So it was difficult to do, but we were able to get at least three together, and we were able to get that vote done the other night. So this is the one remaining vote, and also Rob has a very, very big announcement to make tonight. We just found out this afternoon, so this is also very, very good news as well. So go ahead, Rob, I'll let you take it away.
Well, thank you for having me back. We did meet a couple days ago with the other select boards and boards of selectmen, so I took the presentation, and since you had me in a couple months ago for an update, I skipped a bunch of the same updates that I provided to this board then. So the reason we met was to consider amendments to our IMA, or the governance agreement, and we discussed why that was important, why we were looking to do so. So we have, now that we've stabilized, we've established SEMRECC up at High Rock, we've opened our new facility, we've went live with Foxborough, Mansfield, Easton, and Norton, and we've been very successful operationally. It's time for us to look to the future, look forward into expansion. We've had considerable interest from other communities, which is a huge nod towards the success of the project as a whole. Unfortunately, or I guess not unfortunately, but just as a matter of forming a new entity, the governance agreement was written in 2017, and some of the terms were very, they're legacy terms at this point because there's been so much expansion in the way we do business. So why are we looking to expand? We really are duty bound, and we were built to grow. The state's push is to take the state from 290 something 911 centers down to a level that's really responsive to the needs of the Commonwealth, and having so many small 911 centers, as we saw in the 4 communities that consolidated, they just don't have the bandwidth to operate at the level needed for the demands that are placed on 911 centers nationwide now. So there's continued interest as a model of success that a lot of communities have looked to us to see if we can take them on. As a look inwards, if we don't expand, our budget and our costs will go up like any other municipal government, where our staff will have increased personnel costs. We have fuel costs that are changing, and other costs for our building insurance, those things. So as we look to the future, if we don't expand and increase our grant revenues and dilute the share amongst the communities, obviously our costs will individually per community go up over the course of years. So if we're able to expand and bring on other communities, that offers an opportunity to increase our grant revenue and to divide up that general cost amongst more communities. So instead of our costs going up, they can actually continue to go down. We don't have a huge window to sit on this and wait to see if expansion's for us. It's certainly something that we could consider, but we are not the only game in town, and the Commonwealth is limited, obviously, in the amount of communities that have 911 centers. The shaded regions are regionalized communities. We are the Purple Heart-shaped region in the center there, but we do have Metacomet right to our north, Holbrook, the SHREC, and the Regional Colony Center in Duxbury in light blue, that are all great centers that are have the opportunity to expand as well. So as those communities get shaded in, they kind of come off the table for us to welcome into our center, and if we wait too long, that might essentially box us out of any opportunity. So the IMA amendments, there's quite a few of them. The intent of the IMA amendment is to modernize and conform the language to current standards and terminology, enable a process for adding communities, which is missing at this point, and define how the district board of directors actually grows, which is missing in its entirety right now. So the proposed language in the IMA amendment was taking the 4 current board seats, which are allocated to the 4 current members, and limiting that to 7 total. So 2 additional would be permanent seats. The current 4 communities would retain permanent seats, and then there would be the 7th seat would be at large. So if we had 30 communities, the unrepresented communities would have an election annually to determine who would sit on the board and represent that group. Every single community would have a seat, actually 2 seats on our finance committee to determine budget and appropriate funds. But as far as the actual board of directors, it would be capped at 7. The intent behind that is just to ensure that the board of directors remains, an agile group that is manageable, that we limit our exposure to political influence from, different regions of the state, and make sure that it's an intimate group that is really there to do the business of the district. Under this model, the current charter communities, the 4 current communities, would retain a majority of the board seats as well. The other major changes are the assessments. So if a community is authorized to join, how their assessment is allocated. This would retain the current model for the current 4 communities where it's an even split. And then any new community, we examined a host of formulas, and every time we applied it to different size communities, it tilted either way to an unfair assessment. So if we had, a certain model that we looked at, it might have been advantageous to a larger city or town, and then smaller communities would just essentially be unaffordable for the community to join, or vice versa, where if we had on the other side of the spectrum, a formula could have played to really subsidizing a larger community's stake in the district unfairly to the other communities. So what we adopted and put into language is basically every community is looked at individually. We assess their actual impact to our operations and the cost, and that essentially derives their assessment. The process for admitting a new community has been laid down. So it's initially negotiated by myself. I present it to the board of directors. The board of directors either recommends or does not recommend the consideration of a new community. If they do recommend the consideration of a new community, a special meeting is held of the district where each community has the opportunity to designate a delegate or join the meeting as an entire board, as long as they have a quorum. And together that special meeting votes on either admitting or rejecting a new community. There's a notice procedure with that as well, where before a vote is taken, if the board recommends a community to join, that there's a certain amount of time that is required to notify the select boards or boards of selectmen or the councils of each community to when the meeting is, and to start thinking about their position on it. And like I said, each town can appoint a delegate or join as a full board, or elect to not join the meeting at all and just basically delegate their authority to that meeting. Those are the major updates. There is quite a bit of language update and some other provisions, but that was the heavy hitting stuff. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So I had one quick question. I noticed a couple of places, and I threw this at Christina today, but she was going to check with Bill, but Bill was in a meeting. I noticed a lot of places it still says that the Regional Communication Center is at 50 West Street.
So
Not Mansfield, obviously.
It was a separate amendment. The first amendment clarified all that and removed 50 West Street and the geographic references to where the center shall be. We did that before we went live because we actually opened in Foxborough. Now we're still in Foxborough. So prior to going live, Amendment 1 addressed all those issues. And after this is approved, we're going to do a redraft of the entire IMA so that it's one consistent document with all the amendments contained.
Okay, great.
Are the board of directors the town managers?
Correct.
And you saw, and then it'll also say, just in case it's a bigger community, like obviously we have town manager, if someone's got a mayor, or it'll be whoever's the.
Whoever the chief executive,
Yeah.
the chief operating executive, right.
Yeah.
Correct. And it's certain forms of government, because certain cities have mayors that are actually not mayors. They have city managers that are the actual chief executive, but they have honorary mayors, so we clarified that as well.
No, when we went up there, I mean, the whole building is so impressive. And I remember, now the first thing I thought of when Christine had sent out that we were going to get together and that it was, the number one thing here is about maybe bringing more communities in. I thought, oh, that extra space, all that extra space they were showing us for expansion, is going to come sooner than later.
Yeah, there's, right now, they can probably absorb the next few communities into the space they have out front, but if we get much bigger than that, we're gonna have to start building into the back space, which was there for that reason, was built
Yeah.
for that reason, was set aside for that reason, put it that way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So do you have anything?
Good.
Bob,
No,
anything
good.
else?
Excellent. So you want to move that, take that action, or you, and then Rob has some other important information to share with you as well.
Motion to approve the amended district agreement for SEMRECC as proposed.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. I appreciate your support. So, and another great news, today we learned that we received over $6 million in FY23 grant funding for debt service towards our building construction project, offsetting the assessments the communities pay, and an additional $3 million to replace our computer-aided dispatch and records management system, which is huge. That the records management system and the CAD system are end of life by quite a bit. It's been a struggle for us to keep that alive and functioning. So they awarded us $3 million towards that project, and we're doing that in conjunction and with the availability to do it in partnership with other regional centers and PSAPs across the Commonwealth to even further advance that savings and that interoperability. So we're going to be the host agency, and then it looks like the Regional Old Colony Center in Duxbury will be joining us, and that represents a tremendous cost savings. It gets us into a product that we otherwise wouldn't be able to afford, and now it's just about fully funded by the state. So a really, really great project and some great news all around. So
Great.
Good news.
Great news.
Timing's
Yeah.
everything, right? Right, it was perfect. So he was just talking about it last week and say, we're really hoping that this comes through, and this afternoon he calls, he says, guess what? We got it.
So great stuff.
Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it.
One other quick question, probably should have been back when we were discussing, but do you have some communities now that you think are close to joining?
Yeah, so the town of Norwood.
Maybe you don't want to mention who they are, that's
No,
okay,
it's okay,
I don't know.
it's okay.
Some are more further along than others. The town of Norwood has formally voted to request to join. So after this is settled, we can have that meeting and accept or reject that request. And there's some other communities that are in various stages of feasibility and examining whether or not it's for them. I think the most well-known is the City of Taunton is doing a study to see if they're looking to either petition to join our center, fix what they have in their city, or kind of remain the same. So amongst other communities. So a lot of interest, really great interest. It's a tremendous nod to our operational efficiency and success. So
I just had another phone call the other day from a town administrator who's interested in, which I know Rob is already familiar with. So I'm getting more and more inquiries, and people have seen it. I actually had an inquiry just the other night too from another town actually closer to Worcester that's interested. So the neat thing about this is that the geographic location of our center is really not a challenge in any way, shape, or form because of the height of it, number one, but also because of the technology that we have is so advanced that we were able to absorb communities virtually anywhere in the state and make it happen. So it's a much more attractive option for other communities that are thinking to join. And right now, we were in a much more favorable position to get this done a few years ago because our systems were all near end of life at the same time. So it made sense for us to do this because instead of us all paying millions of dollars for improve our own individual communities, we put those millions of dollars into some of our millions of dollars into that facility, but most of it was funded by the state. So we really saved literally hundreds of thousands of dollars each, and now we're into the millions since we've opened. So it's actually worked out much better than we ever anticipated.
That's amazing to think that, because you remember when the discussion first came up, so many people were like, well, who's going to answer the phone? They don't know where our street is or where we are.
Yeah.
You know, and now to think
It's
that
seamless, completely seamless.
anywhere in the state could
Anywhere in the
be-
state.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So Rob, when someone calls you and says that we're interested, do you like set up a liaison? Or are you the liaison that'll go out there and
we're not
talk
a
to
huge
them?
we're not a huge organization, so it's myself or one of our staff, Eric Bergs, the deputy director, or usually one of the two of us will have some sort of meeting, tour of the facility, those kinds of things. But what we're clear about is we're not looking to collect communities, and that it really has to fit for both the community and us to make sure that they're not affecting our operations adversely, and that we're actually doing a good service for their community. So we go through that process, see what their thoughts are, why they're looking to regionalize, and just lay out what it looks like to actually do it. And a lot of times it's well received. So.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to discussion for town manager goals. And Seth has kind of taken the lead in that, so I'm going to let you start that discussion, my friend.
Sure. Thanks, Stephanie. So, we had the goals from the prior year. There was work done from Bill's office to, I think, sort of slim down the list. When you have lots of key priorities, it's hard to get after everything, and some of these are sort of table stakes, like, work with your department heads to make sure that everyone's, so those came off because those are sort of expected, and tried to focus in on the things that were either new sort of, or refined for the new year, things we've been thinking about, and then other things that we've talked about over the last year session that were added on. So, for example, 360 feedback loop from the human resources perspective, that's in here. The financial services monitoring was something that I put in as something that would require support from the town manager's office. So those types of things. And I feel like Bill and I were sort of in the same place in terms of skinny down, pick the things that really matter and things that can move, help move the town forward. So that's how we came to this somewhat shorter, more concise list. And the other item I'd point out is one of the things that I was thinking about in terms of how to define when a goal was met was to try to think where possible where we could have goal criteria as a way to measure results against the goals. So that's not always something that we can do. Some of them are more subjective, but where we can have measurable sort of empirical evidence that we can measure against. And if, let's say, 2023 is the first year that we can measure a certain, for a certain goal, we'll have that baseline. So if it's something that's important to the town in 2024, we can measure against that, see if there's change, improvement, what have you. So that was the idea around the goal planning to this point. So certainly looking for thoughts, input, so that we can sort of finalize these goals here.
Okay, sounds good, Seth. Bill, quick question. Your, the truck binder, does that have something, maybe extensive is a little too sharp a word, of what the ongoing projects are for, or is that, would that be maybe, because that's going to change all the time?
Yeah, that's right, that's right. So the truck binder is defined primarily as the operational aspects of the job. So, for instance, mine is actually defined primarily by the special act, which says that the town manager is responsible for so many different things. And then I go in to explain what those actual things are.
Okay.
All right, and then there's also operational things that we do on a day-to-day basis, not just talking with department heads, but meeting with them and going over their projects, meeting with them on a regular basis, meeting with the outside world, those kinds of things that are the town manager's office is essentially the primary contact for for federal, state, community leaders throughout the town, as a stop-off point for the town in general. So I do think that, it goes, it's not, the project list is really defined by the goals list, I think. That's my take on it. And I think the goals list, and I think what Seth just talked about is important, because I noticed even during the past year, the board actually marked a certain category which pertained to the communications plan, but we actually spent a lot of time working on the communications plan, but the actual, it was never defined that a deliverable had to be presented that year. So I think that if we had done that, it would have been something that could have been even better measured by the board. But what we did was create a plan, which was something that was unique. In fact, it's actually, we defined it as being unique throughout the state. So it's something that we spent a lot of time working on, but it wasn't actually defined by the goals. So I think so there was a little bit of a misread on that one in that respect, because a lot of work was done on it. But the question is, did we deliver the actual plan? Well, no, we're going to be talking about that in the next month or so. But it just was a case of the timing of that. But I do think, looking at deliverables, looking at, what's the expectations supposed to be for those goals makes it easier for the board to determine where the manager is. And, this is less of an issue for me, obviously, but I think going forward, you really need to be clear about that, so the expectation of the manager is such that they know what they have to deliver by, by April or May or June of next year. So we'll have to wait and see. And obviously, there'll be a shorter list for next year, but certainly for the year after that, there'll be a full list, and the expectation should be clear on all of those.
Yeah, because why I was asking was, because I was thinking, obviously, this would have been a goal specifically for you, for this coming year, to prepare whoever takes your position, so they
Right.
that all the projects going on, that, so I that's something I thought of today, couldn't get, you already had your list done. And like I said, that wouldn't be, that's just specifically because we have an incoming.
Right, so
town manager.
so it'd be, I think the goal there would be a transitional involvement of the current manager with the new manager, so that there is, a proper handoff, and so there's a smooth transition.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the ultimate goal of every manager, is to make sure that when you leave the place in good order, and that, there isn't chaos left in your wake. So I think it's actually a good goal to have as part of this discussion, because I think we all want that.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's any
Yeah.
doubt about that.
Yeah, and then obviously that then comes off our list for a new town manager,
Exactly.
because.
It wouldn't be
you know,
applicable in
yeah.
that instance.
Okay.
So
Do you
Steph,
have
I would just add that, I mean, we could spend hours,
Yeah.
picking through and reading each one of these and talking about it. We have 10 minutes on the agenda.
Yeah.
So what I would ask is there anything that was part of sort of the bills, the town manager proposal versus sort of our board, the selectmen proposal? Anything was added, pulled? Any questions around any of the objectives? Any questions around goal criteria that, sort of?
No, for me, some of the stuff that we pulled, I was like, oh, great, because like, as I'm doing your evaluation, some of the stuff, you're trying to evaluate something that, I know it's a goal for you because it's support for a department, but like, as you're reading some of them, I feel like they're the goal for the department head, and I know you're overseeing that, but, so some of them, I like that we've eliminated some of them, because I think they were a little redundant. So, no, I think you did a great job.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, some of these are big ticket items too, and I mean, just for reference, or, and as an example, one of them is, at the discretion of the select board, provide support and guidance to the development of financial trend monitoring system, which is something that I've been sort of beating the drum for quite a while. Our friend John is coming in from Northborough in August to speak to that structure. He's going to talk about it much more. His town actually has implemented it, so he'll be able to speak to it and give you a much better sense of what that's all about. So there's some big ticket items here that I put on. So I just wanted to make sure that people were comfortable with the ideas, or if there's any questions around what the intent is or where the idea came from.
Yeah. No, I was
So,
very,
anything?
very comfortable. Doc, how about yourself?
No, I'm good. Looked good to me.
Okay.
Good.
Great job, Seth.
Oh, thanks.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, town manager goals. Okay, now we're up to assistant town manager update.
Okay, just a couple of things to report in the recruitment area. So this week, we had a new regional food inspector start, Paul Gilpin. He's from Foxborough. He's comes educated from Johnson & Wales, and again, he's a food inspector. And you've heard that we are partnered with 4 other communities taking advantage of some of this state regional health inspection money, and that's what that's about. And the second person will be starting next week. His name is Clifford Pierre, also from Foxborough, and he's in the same sort of category, but he is a housing inspector that will be shared amongst the 5 communities. And his education comes from Boston College, both with some experience in their respective areas. Fairly new and in their career fields. This is a good place for them to get started. So those are the 2 new ones. We do still have our collections coordinator position, filled. We advertised. We thought we were close to having that filled. We do have an interview tomorrow, so hoping to nail that down. So that's the part-time collections coordinator position. A couple other ones that are still out there for recruitment: laborer driver in the Tree and Park Division, seasonal laborer over at DPW, and a part-time librarian. That's that teen librarian position we've been talking about. And one thing of note, and this is something that's come from the Board of Selectmen over the last couple of years, and that's the question of why do we have some of these positions not paying at minimum wage? And that's something that we've addressed. As a municipality, we are exempt from paying state minimum wage, and the town has taken advantage of that exempt status, as many communities have for many, many years. We're now in a position where we can no longer afford to do that because we can't attract people to some of these positions, because there are other what you would consider minimum wage positions that are paying better than some of the, what I would consider more attractive positions, such as library page or seasonal laborer over at DPW, some of our recreation positions. So the Personnel Board met earlier this evening at 5:30 in this room and voted to go along with my recommendation to raise our minimum up to $14.25, which is the state minimum wage. So that will be the lowest starting wage for any of these positions. Some of them do start higher than that. So that applies directly to that seasonal labor position. And that's all I have, unless you have any questions on any of that.
So Mike, so my question around raising the minimum wage, so are you saying that was effectively approved somehow today?
So that was, that is something that actually the bill could make the decision on, but when it comes to human resources policies or anything that affects non-union wages, benefits, that's something that we always turn to our personnel board for guidance. Mm-hmm. So I took recommendations to them, asked for their feedback, and they were unanimously in support of bringing those wages up to minimum, so that, for example, recently we lost 3 library pages, and those are positions where we traditionally hold people in for a long time. They're desirable positions where people you can learn and grow in the library field. So to lose 3 of them in a matter of a couple of months, that's significant. And some of it was a natural process. Others, it was a matter of, I got to earn money for college, and if I'm, being paid $1.50, $2 less than I can make at McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts or places like that, that's a decision. So it's a recommendation from the Personnel Board.
Yeah, so the rationale makes perfect sense to me. And what I'm thinking about is, and you mentioned it was a decision that Bill's office can make, and that's based on strong town manager or charter or?
Right, it's in the actual special act itself.
It's in the special act.
Which is special act, otherwise known as the charter or the town manager act.
Yeah, and so I guess that's the type of thing that I think when it's supposed to be on the agenda somewhere. When we review the special act / town charter, those are the types of decisions that come before the board that we find out about after the fact, oftentimes. That I think there should be potentially a change in the way we think about some of those decisions. Doc?
Well, you got to remember this has been going on for a while, and the town selectmen voted on this. How long to have a strong town manager act?
2002, I believe.
2002. And you got to remember at the time it was to take some of the burden of the minutia off of the selectmen.
Yep, and I would say that changing the minimum wage is less minutia than it is actual policy.
No, but we're not changing the minimum wage. The minimum wage, they're bringing people that are being paid under minimum wage up to minimum wage.
Yeah, we're not
Changing minimum wage, that's changing the minimum wage in Foxborough.
No.
Well, the minimum wage is set by the state, all right?
Understood, but we're exempt, and so we're changing Foxborough's minimum wage.
Right, and I think the reason
That's what I'm talking about.
the reason it was explained was because we weren't competitive with the rest of the world.
I totally understand the rationale.
Okay.
What I'm getting at is the decision was made. This is the primary policy board in town. Doc thinks, his opinion is that changing that type of policy is minutia. In my opinion, that's a significant policy change. So when I talk about reviewing the town charter or the town special act, it's to consider those types of things, because as a board, I think we approve liquor licenses and we approve street parties and that type of thing. But I feel like we should be spending a little bit more time on policy items like this, where decisions are made when we find out sort of after the fact.
So let's be clear about that. I mean, that decision has not been made. The process was to send it to the personnel board, which is the way the policy is written, the practice is. Send it to the policy board. They are a recommending board, not a policy, not a setting board. So, and then if they agree with it, they would then come back to me for that decision. So that decision has not technically been made yet. It was waiting for them to act on it first before I could act on it. And so Mike is notifying you that they actually recommend that action. So that's the process.
Okay, it sounded more like and I understand they're a recommendation type organization or board. The decision now is something you're gonna make, right? And so I'm questioning that as something that should be a decision at this level.
So if I could, it may be obvious, but in case it's not, I just want to frame that the positions that were discussed and recommended, those are only our summer seasonal positions, with the exception of the library page. So other non-union positions, those would go through the town meeting process.
Sure.
I just want to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, and I appreciate that clarity, Mike, thank you.
And and by the way, it doesn't affect any union position at all. All the union positions are actually a bit higher than those. So it's strictly the support level positions and seasonal types of positions that fall into those categories.
Yeah, I get it.
I tend to lean with you, but I get it. Nobody did anything wrong. This is the act. I kind of wish there was something like in the middle, Like, I get what you're saying, like, Bill or whoever the town manager is, shouldn't have to come before us for everything, But, when we're like changing something, changing the structure or whatever. So I get where you're coming from, Seth. I think maybe, like, for me, somewhere in the middle would be what's preferred, but it is what it is right now, so.
And I
yeah.
think coming full circle to you, Seth, I think it is timely that we relook at that.
Agreed.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what the minor little discussion here, it was brought up, and it's going to be on our agenda that it's time we relook at that.
Right, it is coming up.
So I think it's certainly timely that there's some disagreement.
It's actually.
So what made me think of it is like, this feels like something that is something we need to, think about now in terms of where we are now as opposed to what we were thinking about back in 2002, right?
And we're gonna have a new town manager, so.
Yeah.
Even more, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's absolutely important for us to go over that.
But to your point, understanding, like, that it shouldn't, or even maybe, the fact that both town managers would have experience in making a certain decision. So I get it. I'm like somewhere I hate to be in the middle, like in the gray area, but it is. But I understand exactly where Seth is coming from, and that might be, a good discussion for us to have at some point. Who knows, what do we do? Make up our own rules, like what comes before us, what doesn't? Can I ask one question too? Just out of curiosity, what is it that the municipalities are exempt from paying minimum wage? Obviously, there's a reason why, I'm just curious, like,
It was, I can't say for certain, Stephanie, but it was my understanding, unless Mike knows, it was something that was included in the legislation when it was first approved.
Yeah.
That the individual cities and towns were exempt from that, even though, for the most part, we've all utilized that. But now the world has changed where it's very difficult to get employees to even apply or to retain them unless you're paying competitive wages. And that's the biggest challenge we face. And so a lot of us are all being faced with those same difficult choices where we would otherwise leave the number where it was. But in this case, what's happened is that the market has sort of pressed us into a different place.
Yeah, well, and something too, to Mike's point, when you, especially if it's like, when you say some of the summer help, so I think of the kids over at Booth, okay? My daughter worked there for a number of summers, okay? I just assumed she made minimum wage there because, and then, so for a kid, for you or I might say, oh, I love this job, it's worth being paid $1 less an hour. But to a 15, 16, 17-year-old, they may say, wait a minute, that $1 an hour is an extra $40 in my pocket, which makes it, for them, that's a larger amount of money, which might make them go to McDonald's. And now, like McDonald's and places like that, Target, they're paying almost $20 an hour.
$19 an hour.
Yeah.
$20 an hour.
No skilled positions. And so I think part of it is allowing towns flexibility for those roles at, a market rate might be lower than, market rates are going crazy now because of all the
craziness.
Yeah.
Craziest in the world.
They're crazy because of the craziness, right? Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
All right.
All right, anything else, Mike, you good?
No, that's all I have.
You good? Thank you. Ready for my report?
We're ready for you, Bill.
All right, so just a couple of things. I do want to start off with, in sharing some sad news. I was just notified this evening while sitting here that Alice Noonan passed away suddenly this afternoon. Alice is the matriarch of the Noonan family, and there was a very sudden death this afternoon. So Alice was of course the mother of Rich and Ed Noonan, and of course Deb Giordino, a former rec director, and Rich was Rich of course is our deputy chief, and Ed being a former captain, just recently retired captain of the fire department. So our thoughts and condolences go out to all the Noonan family members that was suddenly, it's hard to lose a matriarch like that, but when it happens the way it does, it's even harder. So we all want to share in that sorrow and send all our condolences on that respect. I just got some new other businesses on a more positive note, we had some really good news this past week. It was a good news for Gillette, good news in the Kraft family, and for all of us, because, you know, for so long, efforts have been made, I know, by the Kraft family and their organization to lure two very important venues to their, two very important events to their venue. One was the Army-Navy game, which has been in the works for several years. And I know that Phil Botafuco and Dan Murphy and his team have all been working on this for many, many years. And we were just very, very pleasantly surprised and appreciative of the fact that we're going to be the site of the Army-Navy game in 2023, in December of 2023. So that's terrific news for this town and for this state and for this region, to actually host such a historic venue, for a historic game rather, for at our venue here in Foxborough. And then also, within the day of that announcement, we learned that the 2026 FIFA World Cup soccer matches will also be hosted here in Foxborough, conceivably for the semifinal rounds, which will be somewhere around 6 games potentially. And so we will we'll be the world host for a few days here in Foxborough in 2026. So now that has happened, of course, the real work begins, and the real effort begins towards looking at the logistics of that and how that's going to work. But those are significant achievements by the Kraft organization and all the team up at Gillette. And for the town was an applicant in that co-applicant in that process a couple of years ago to apply to FIFA. And we also want to thank the state, who played an important role in supporting that effort on both ends. So congratulations to the Kraft family for achieving both those milestone events. So those are some of the major updates in town business. But the second one was the RFQ process for the town manager search, and so that will begin. I'm working on a RFQ rather, for that process that will begin in July to start searching for a firm. There, from what I understand, and I've talked to several of the firms already and just let them know that we're going to be looking in their direction for a proposal. There are about 5 firms that I'm aware of that will probably be candidates for this position. So, and they range in various levels of experience in this, but all of them are very significant in experience in this area. But I will say that each one of them are very talented, very gifted, and very capable of doing this work. Some have had more experience in this area, in Massachusetts particularly, and others, but they all have had significant experience in searching out, in conducting searches and leading that process for town boards. And as Stephanie correctly pointed out, this board has not been involved in that process in the past, so this will be a new process which will require some direction and some guidance from an experienced vendor in this area, and I'm sure each one of them will all have that capability of doing that. So we'll get to work on that, and we'll be having that out in July, so that you'll have responses available for you, so you can start the process formally in August. The other item I had was year-end transfers, and I listed them for you tonight. And this is the annual process that we do to close out the fiscal year. And I will say that this year was a little bit more significant than other years, primarily for a couple of reasons. One was the fact that we had a lot of people leave the organization during the past year. So we had a total of 7 firefighters leave the organization during fiscal year 2022. So that meant that we had to transfer funds into this fiscal year from other budgets. The other significant areas were in the area of fuel. I don't think there's any surprise that fuel has become a significant cost factor for the organization during the past year, and for I'm not seeing the second page here of this.
I think it's a separate.
Is it separate? There's 2.
For the police chief, fire chief is a separate one.
Right, but I had the memo, but I don't have the second page of the. I don't see the full. There's a spreadsheet of all the different transfers. Do you have that there?
Watch this. Not this one.
No, that's not it. That's not it. The actual transfers are not.
That's why.
Have that? It's supposed to be an actual listing, but I can go through them roughly, but it shows you that, well, the listing on the second page of the memo explains all of the different transfers. There was a $3,000 transfer in our office because Sarah left our office as the HR specialist during the middle of the year, and there was a payout for a vacation and some sick leave for her. Finance.
Not sick, just vacation.
I'm sorry, just vacation, you're correct. There was $30,000 in finance for, that was transferred out, I believe, or in, for,
There it is here.
yeah, there it is, okay, great, thank you.
It's kind of sideways.
Yeah, that's the one I was looking for, okay, thank you. Yeah, to cover the chief assessor retirement payout and remaining June invoices. So that was for that. How do you move this down, Mike? You just,
I think it's only gonna go.
there we go, thank you, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, all right.
There's a way to switch it.
There is? Okay. Yeah, let me just see it here.
Back up to full screen.
Yeah. And then, I'm gonna just rotate, yeah, right there.
Rotate,
Rotate. Yeah.
Keep going.
There we go. Okay, great. Excellent, thank you. So, yeah, the chief assessor's retirement payout and remaining June officers for the finance. We had money in legal services. We've not really spent significant money in legal services this year, so we're able to transfer out of that. Advisory committee expenses were used to help cover town meeting recommendations and budget printing and posting expenses, which is something we covered and then just took it out of that line. The GIS and IT expenses was $7,000 to cover some remaining invoices for changes to some of the software changes in the GIS system. Planning salaries, that was to cover additional duty pay for one of the staff members while Paige was out during she was out for about 6 weeks. Central maintenance expenses was to cover fuel costs, as I pointed out earlier, and remaining June invoices, and that came out of the group insurance expenses, which came in a lot better than expected. Fire salaries was, again, there was 7 different individuals to cover retirement payouts for new hires and also to set up new hires. And that was transferred from the police department salary line. Because they actually had some money left over. And fire expenses to cover, so remaining, that was to cover cover some expenses to help outfit those new officers, firefighters as they came online. Joint public safety building expenses to cover OT expenses. That was for the when we had that the break-in for the outside break-in of the system, we had to spend some expensive time fixing the system over there. But the system, they didn't break into our system. They tried to attempted to, and then we had to make some additional changes as a result of that. That required some extensive overtime to pay for that. Council on Aging and Human Services salaries was to cover the former department administrator retirement payout, who had been here for a long period of time. Recreation salaries was to cover the former rec director's retirement, and also to cover, I believe, was from, no, I'm sorry, that was DPW, so that was recreation salaries. And then unemployment compensation was $10,000 to cover remaining June invoices, which we had a couple people out on unemployment, and some of them, that covers school department expenses as well. So that we cover those expenses, but then we get reimbursed later on, or they transfer some of that expense to us. So all in all, it was the biggest expenses were, if you took out the fire salaries and the central maintenance for fuel costs, we were actually pretty much in line with what we've done in the past. Those were the 2 big ones that really impacted that line this year.
It was like 150?
About $150,000, $180,000.
180.
Yeah. So if we normally it'd be about 150,000 is the area that we're in for doing that. So those are the key areas of concern.
If we know somebody is going to retire, do we budget the
We do, well,
payout?
for instance, they.
Sometimes you don't know, because you don't know what they use for vacation or sick
Well,
time.
It's
or-
it's two ways, because you don't know sometimes if a person could retire unexpectedly. They have planned for my retirement, so that was included in the budget, so that's not gonna be a surprise.
Yeah.
But in fire and police, up until recently, until recent contract changes were made, we wouldn't know right up until like the last few weeks if they were gonna leave. So that created a big impact on the
Yeah.
budget when that happened. So we've actually now planned for that, and we put language in the contract to allow for that.
Well, in some positions have a sick buyout, you don't know,
Right.
you don't know what, until they're retiring, you don't know what is left, how many days, whatever, yeah, okay.
So the good news, and here's the good news about this, is that we didn't use any money out of the reserve fund this year. We left it at $75,000. We have not transferred any money out of that account, which really minimizes the impact on the finance committee, because we're not gonna share anything with them. These are transfers that I can make, through the state statute. But I always share the information with you, so that there's no surprises to anyone later on. And I'm gonna do the same thing with the advisory committee when I see them next week. So we'll continue to do that as well. But again, the only action is gonna be for me to sign off on these, but I wanted to make sure I share that information with you. Happy to take any questions about that.
So, do you have anything?
No, self-explanatory.
Yep, no, we're
Okay.
good.
All right, so I think that does it for my report, Madam Chair. I'll turn it back to you.
And we don't vote on that, that's just the ad con.
Right, it's information.
sharing
It's
it. Yep.
information, yeah,
Okay,
it's
great,
information.
thank you,
No action
Bill.
taken needed.
All right, okay, so Selectmen's update. Couple of things I was gonna mention, Bill already mentioned, so we don't have to talk about the events up at the stadium. The long-awaited Sweetness and Honey Bakery is supposed to be opening on June 26th, so everybody that's been waiting for that bakery, it's right around the corner. Let's see, how many of it?
Yes, this plan,
Yeah.
is Thursday. There's a
Yeah.
planned ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
It's something small, and she's not gonna have a big group, but the grand opening is on Sunday, but she wanted to do a soft opening
Yeah.
on Thursday for the ribbon cutting
Yeah.
with you.
Right in the middle of my diet, so I can't eat anything. So there'll be more
our
for everybody
diets,
else, how's
right?
that?
You don't have a cheat day coming
I
up?
have a cheat day coming up, sorry.
Every
Can't help
day's
you.
a cheat day, come on. All right, and then, of course, the big thing was Founder's Day. What a great day, bravo to Scott O'Donnell and his whole committee. I mean, obviously, we were all there, handing out candy and marching, and, I mean, it's been a while since I marched in the Founder's Day. The kids were younger. I think I did it when, we had Girl Scouts or, maybe softball or something. But, I mean, for me, like, looking at all the smiles, how happy everybody just was like to have Founder's Day back. I did read in the paper that they said we had a bigger crowd than we'd had maybe, before COVID. So people came out for it. It was a perfect weather day. I mean, like I said, bravo to them. They had a good amount of vendors, and it was just a great day across the board. I mean, you guys have anything else you want to add to that, or something else for Selectmen's update that you might want to mention?
Can't forget the fireworks. Fireworks were awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody else get to see them? I got to see them from my front deck, so it was nice.
I was
but,
at work. I heard them.
The fireworks were
Yeah.
great. It was nice, long,
Yeah.
30, 35-minute fireworks. Strawberry shortcake booth was phenomenal. The lobster rolls were great.
Doc and I had this conversation about the strawberry shortcake and lobster rolls. The
Yeah,
best.
so thanks for saying that. I'm
Yeah.
on my diet.
It was the
That's really
best
good.
strawberry shortcake I've ever had. And the fire demonstration with the young fire people, was very cool that they set that up and put
Yeah.
something on fire and put it out. Was very, very neat.
Great to
Yeah,
see our young guys at work
absolutely.
over there.
And you
That's good.
can't forget about the tank.
The tank
How
was
cool
awesome.
was the tank going down?
right.
And didn't ruin the street in the process, which is great.
No, that was cool to see that tank.
Yeah,
That was great.
yeah.
Yeah, I would just say Founder's Day is one of the coolest things about living in this town, and so much credit to the folks that put it on and helped bring it back, and it was amazing, so.
Yeah,
Great job.
and I mean, Doc and I are both transplants. We've been here a long time, but we're transplants. But for you, this is where you grew up, and Founder's Day, you have those childhood memories.
You'd think, I don't remember what the heck I was doing on Founder's Day when I was a kid. I don't remember.
In trouble.
Yeah,
That's right. That's right. Oh, I actually had one other thing I just want to mention. It was in the Reporter. Sounds like something kind of cool. Maybe, it is tomorrow afternoon. It's the Patriots. It's the Patriots and the Patriots alumni are holding a free, non-contact football clinic at the Sam Burns Field tomorrow afternoon. It's for boys and girls, 9 to 14. It says all skill levels. Registration is at 3:30. You don't have to sign up for it ahead. I think you just have to show up. Registration is 3:30. The clinic starts at 4, and it says there's a meal at 6 o'clock. So they're giving something at the end. But I thought, if any, the kids are out of school now too, and if, and boys and girls. This isn't just for, for the football boys. And if anyone, the info, the website was patriotsalumni.com. So if anybody wants to look it up, it was also in last week's Reporter, and I just happened to see it, and I said, oh, geez, that might be something nice just to tell people if they, I hadn't heard anything about it until I was seeing it in the paper, so.
Yeah.
Anyhow, just to throw that out. You guys have anything else for
No, that's
Selectmen's
well
update?
said. Thank you.
All right. Back to you, Mr. Ferguson.
Are we there? So there's a motion here, right?
Yep. Well, I guess I probably should say, we're going on to action items. I guess I
Okay.
should have said that.
Motion to approve a block party application at 22 Foxhill Road on July 9th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. by applicant Matthew Reportella.
Second.
For any other discussion, I think this is the same, is this the same block party that comes up every year? I feel like?
I believe it is.
Yeah, and it's always, from what I hear, it's always a good time, no issues and everything.
It's not a heavily traveled
Yeah,
street. There's.
yeah, exactly. And
easy
it's
to-
nice to see neighbors, getting together. So, yeah, any other discussion?
No.
All right, all those in favor?
All right.
Aye. All right.
All right.
Okay, and I think, Christina, correct me, are we holding off on these appointments, or we're doing them?
We're doing them, I just omit on the second motion, the second name, so just appointing Dennis to the audit committee.
Okay.
That second person
Okay.
hasn't been
All right.
verified,
Motion to appoint Thomas Murphy as an associate planning board member for a term to expire May 31st, 2023.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to appoint Dennis Keefe to the audit committee.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Working on a second one, just waiting to confirm.
Okay. Awesome.
That's it.
Now the big one.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.